Oh boy, it's looking like the Canadian federal election is going to be an ugly one. I'm not the first one to say this, not the first to come to this conclusion. It's starting to sound like a common refrain from people, but boy did this become super apparent when news broke the other day that Liberals were sending around clips of Andrew Scheer back in 2005 speaking about why he did not support same-sex marriage. That was the year when it was most recently up for a vote and when it was ratified, when same-sex marriage became legal in Canada. Now, back then I supported same-sex marriage. I've always supported it as becoming law in Canada. But you watch this old news story, 14 years old, and you think, what on earth is going on here? Now, I don't know about you, but I'm a big fan of talking about public policy, talking about foreign affairs, or talking about tax policy, talking about real stuff, and the real stuff that politicians actually have the ability to do. That's legislation, things that they're going to implement, and so forth. What I've never cared for is this thing that we're seeing more and more of that's basically not our guy has bad policies that are going to make your lives bad. These are dumb policies, what have you. But our guy is a bad human being. I don't like any of that. I've been critical of Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's policies for a while now, for a couple of years, on a number of different fronts. I've never said he's a bad guy. I mean, I've met him a couple times. I don't know the man, so I cannot make a judgment of his character. I'm not saying Justin Trudeau is a traitor. There's people who write that. I think that's not a particularly fair thing to say. I don't think that's something one should be saying out there. These attacks on Andrew Scheer are clearly designed to say he's a bad guy, because this is not a policy issue that's a thing. Same-sex marriage has been legal in Canada since then, since around 2005. It's not changing, it's not going back. I think that's a good thing. Should we be enraged that 14 years ago somebody held these views? I don't know. Like I said, I disagree with what Andrew Scheer said back in 2005, but we also know a lot of people held those views only back then. Not just a number of Conservative MPs, but also dozens of Liberal MPs had a history of voting against same-sex marriage. A number of them, about 10 or so, are still sitting Liberals today. Now, Andrew Scheer has said, not just in response to this story, but previously, he said, look, I'm fine with the way the laws are now. I support that. So he's not actively lobbying. He's not opposing same-sex marriage. He says he supports the status quo. Look, Barack Obama, when he ran for president in 2008 under, what was it, the Republican? Oh no, he was a Democrat. That's right. Barack Obama won the presidency opposing same-sex marriage.
I do not support gay marriage.
I believe that marriage is the union between a man and a woman.
Now, soon after, in 2009, he came out in support of it, so I don't know, maybe it was a political calculation and so forth, but maybe that's even worse, that Obama was just sort of lying about his views and being cynical about it to win people's votes. I don't know. But bottom line, Obama, several years after the Andrew Scheer clip, he was against same-sex marriage. This campaign is going to get really rough if we spend all our time going back and digging into what people said and did 14 years ago. I'm all for vetting candidates. I'm all for holding people to account for their record. But I think what matters is people saying what they're going to do on the campaign trail. Maybe Justin Trudeau feels he needs to get revenge for Gropegate. This was a story, as you know, 18 years ago. An employee with a newspaper affiliated with Post Media, she said that he groped her, he touched her, inappropriately grabbed her. Now, a lot of people had problems with that story. For the most part, the problem, though, was how Trudeau talked about it today. There weren't that many people who said, obviously, you should not do what he did 18 years ago, and nobody approves of that behavior, but the greater concern was how he spun it and the odd things he said about it now. That was what rankled most people. Who knows? Maybe the Liberals just want to go back as far as they can. The idea is clearly to say that Andrew Scheer, knuckle-dragging villain, he's going to do all these socially conservative things. This one looks particularly desperate, and quite frankly, it's looking ugly. How far back are we going to go? What's going to happen? What other things are they going to drag up about everybody? The writ hasn't even dropped yet. The campaign isn't even underway. It's not even Labor Day yet, where most Canadians tune in. So if that's what's happening now, boy, what's to come in the weeks ahead?